So, hi guys. Again, now we're in the last step, the last video to close off everything. And this is an amazing section. It's called tool calling. We're giving the LLM tools and other capabilities to be able to execute and just come up with better results. And it's really amazing. This is what now makes the foundation of AI agents. If you've heard this word going around, AI agents, yeah. So basically, these are things that you tell them you want and imagine having a personal assistant just telling it, book me a spot at the Kenya cinema at 7:30. You don't really care. The assistant goes out and does all these things. Alafu anakuja anakuambia, yeah, the everything is booked. So this is the same concept, just having an AI agent that you can say, book me a flight to Mombasa or Dar es Salaam, and then it will go out and try to execute all that. And then it will tell you if it was successful or not, or if it ran out any challenges. Yeah, so that's the foundation of an agent, and it's really cool. I actually think this is where rubber meets road, and we're actually having fun with the AI stuff. So, what is tool calling? So, that's what tool calling is, just allowing a model to respond to a given prompt by generating output that matches the user defined schema. So, that's kind of what basically it's saying is we give the LLM tools, and then the tools here in this case is a schema. We give the LLM the tools, and then the LLM will decide which tool is the best to execute on. Then to execute that tool, or the tool will be executed, then the output can either be given back to the LLM, or the output can go into the system. Either uh, maybe if that example I made one system that the LLM could decide to send a picture to somebody once it found that picture in the database. So it could find it and then send it to them. So that output doesn't have to go back into the LLM, but it just says, okay, send the tool. The tool, once it runs that function, the image is sent. So that's where all this is coming from. But let's start and get right into it. It's an important disclaimer to say that for this tool calling on function calling or tool calling, the LLM doesn't directly call the tool or execute the tool. It is the humans or us, the developers, who decide to execute the tools. What the LLM does, it gives you back positional arguments and tells you the name of the tool you should call. So it tells you this is the tool you should call, these are the arguments you should pass it in, and it should do that work, or it should execute that thing properly. Okay. And that's something we should all, that's just a disclaimer. Now, the other aspect of it where there's another aspect of it where it's called AI agents, where the agents actually execute the tools by themselves. And that I'll make a whole other video about that separately. So yeah, let's get on to it. So it's actually the only new thing we're importing here is LangChain core tools import tools. So this tool is a wrapper function in Python developer. In Python development, a wrapper function is a function that takes in another function. And if you don't know about that, you can just go and Google it up. But basically, what that does basically mean is you put the at symbol and then you say tool and then you put the other function below it. So in this case, we are creating the actual function tool. So we're building upon the idea that we had going forward about making a travel sales agent bot. So the one of the tools we give it is to get the current weather. Another tool is to get the weather focus. Another tool is to get the holidays. Another tool is to get the currency exchange. These are some of the tools. So these functions are not yet. I haven't built out these functions. These functions can actually be like an API call to another API that gets the data back on stuff like that. Most of these tools will be an API call. Maybe get the holiday can be like a tool that actually goes and looks into a database, like actually goes into a database and gets that information from a database and bring it back. And the get exchange function can actually be a mathematical operation. But I haven't written it out. All I've done is basically just written printf. It'll only return sentences just as a proof of concept, but feel free to go and actually build it out as you would like. So let's get right into it. So, okay, good. Now we have bigger stuff. So we'll also be doing type linting for all this for this tool. So it's very important to do type linting. And type linting, when you're doing a function, basically just have to say the definition, then the function name, and then you write in as you see the arguments of the function it will be taking. So in this case, the location is the argument, get current weather. You'll have to say the type of that argument. So in this case, you're saying string, and then this right arrow key. So basically, just a dash and a arrow button, right arrow. the return, this basically says this is the return of this argument, and the return is a string. So in case it was returning a number, you will do this and then return, say here, int. 2 minutes returning a number. If in case it's not returning a number, if it's returning nothing, you say none. So basically that means it's returning nothing. And if it's in case it's returning a dictionary, you can do all these things, but in essence, what it's doing is just returning a string. And part of type linting, we also have to explicitly explain what the function is going to do. So that is done by having this um, three 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 quotation marks, and then putting out an explanation of what the function is doing, and then three closing exclamation marks. So basically, this just creates a summary of the function. And what it does basically is, as you can see here, the function gets the current weather in a given location. And then the arguments of that function is location. And then the location is location to get weather for. And then that's basically it. So when you hover over this function, really, it will tell you that whatever you have explicitly written below. So gets the current weather of a given location. And that, so it just helps understand exactly what is important. And it will tell you the thing it needs and the thing it doesn't need. So it will need the location of type string, and it returns a string. So if you scroll down here where we call the function, let me just hover it, you will see the exact same thing. So it will tell you the same thing. So this is get current weather, gets the current weather of a location. So it just helps the interpreter and the environment and the AI know exactly what you're going to do. So we've created one that gets weather, that takes in a location. The one gets the weather forecast. This is the current weather. This is the weather forecast. So maybe for the future. Okay, this one also does the same thing. It takes in a location again. This one gets the holidays of an upcoming holiday for a given location. That's the same thing. So they all just return a print statement. The current weather of the location is sunny. The current forecast of the location is hot and sunny. Sunny and hot. The upcoming holidays is of the location is holiday 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're all just repetitive if print statements, but feel free to make it as complicated as you want to, as long as you describe in the inputs and outputs, and you do type linting and you describe exactly what you want to do it with it from here. And some of these things you can be helped by Copilot or by other ChatGPT elements, or even Perplexity, just tools that can help you do it. And remember to wrap all your functions with this at tool thing. So this is just a wrapper function for all of them. So we have currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tools. So yeah, let's execute these tools. And then, so we create a tool belt, or okay, a list of tools. Let's just call it that. A list of tools. It's easier to call it that. So we'll create a list of tools so all the tools, we put it in one list, and then call that list tools. And then we can create a tool lookup. So what a tool lookup is basically a lookup. It's basically I get the name of every tool and map it to the actual function. So the name maps to a function. The name maps to a function. So you'll see where this comes in handy shortly in a few. So there's actually two ways of building the tool, getting the response back from the LLM and passing it into a function. So one, you can actually create the actual function and just tell the LLM this is the function. Then the LLM will tell you, okay, you can run that function and here's the variables, go ahead and run it. But secondly, you can just create the classes like we did in the previous case. You can just create the classes of these tools, the classes of the output you expect. And then these classes you can pass to the LLM, and the LLM can output those classes back to you. And you can pass the outputs of those classes in JSON into the tool next. So there are two ways of doing it, but we already did this in the previous example, since you already know how to get to pass classes, to pass outputs from classes, and from classes into a function. So that was covered in the previous class, in the previous lesson. So I want to be covering that today. I'll comment this out and just cover explicitly working with functions. Okay, so let's go ahead. So we go ahead and create the OpenAI, import chat OpenAI model, and this time we call it LLM. So you can call it without a name really, and then you do a bind. So you do LLM.bind tools. So we are binding this LLM with the tools we have. Basically, you're telling this LLM, look, these are the tools we have. So make sure you respond. When you're responding, make sure you're responding with the tools that I currently, with these tools, or you can use these tools to give me a response. And then you can create a query. So really at this point, it's quite easy. If you want, you can create a system query or you can create you can use chat templates, but this time I'll just go straight into it. The query is, I'm planning to move to Canada from Kenya for my master's degree. What is the weather in Canada and the exchange rate between my currency and their currencies? So basically, just a quick question between, this is what I want to do. Please give me some information. And then the chain is just basically the tool. And then we say the chain invoke. Okay, one moment, I didn't run this. Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. So the LLM will take its time, take its sweet time, take its sweet time. Let it cook, now it will respond. Now let us see the outputs of this. So when this outputs, it doesn't say the content. There is no content to read from. But what it does have is it has positional arguments and additional keyword arguments. The additional keyword arguments contain tool calls, and the tool calls contain certain stuff that it can execute on, or certain words, and we'll look into them slightly shortly. But let's see the tool calls. So we can go, if you want the tools, you can get it from the tool calls. So you can say response.tool calls, and then you can see exactly what the LLM has said. Yes, so these are the tool calls. This is what the LLM has responded. So the tool calls, basically the LLM says, you can there's a tool you should use. The tool is called get weather data, and the argument you'll pass in is Canada, and that ID is this, and then this, and that is called a tool call. So that type of argument is called a tool call. And then there's another one that you do again. There's another function you can call that is called get exchange rate, and the argument is Canada. No, the argument is from currency Kenya to currency Canada. That's where where you're comparing from and to, and that's all that. And then how do we run this function? So we create a simple for loop. So a for loop, because sometimes if you have 100 tools, the LLM can list to you. In our case, we had only 5 tools, but it only listed 3. So maybe you want to loop over all the tools that the LLM has said and try to execute them. So we can say for the tools in the response.tools, we already know what the response.tools do. Response.tools give you a list. And this is a list of 2 things. You already know a list of, no, it's a list of one that has 2 items, one dictionary that has the first tool and the second dictionary that has another tool. And so this tool call will be basically that first tool. And then you get the name by doing, look, tool.name, we're getting this name. We are accessing this name to get this name. As you can see, it is a string. It is not a tool. It's not a function. It is a string, and a string is just a name of something. So that is passed to the selected tool. And then you also get the call arguments, the tool called arguments. So the arguments is this dictionary here. We get them as well. And then you pass that into the tool arguments. And then we look at the lookup. And we go into the lookup table. So remember what the lookup table is already another dictionary that just has the tool against, just has tools against, so it has tools against the name of the tools that the ChatGPT might respond to versus vis-a-vis the actual function that will be called. So we just do that, we just pass in the selected name. So that's how you usually get items from a dictionary. You just give in the key, and then it give you the value by default. So this is the name, the selected tool name is the key. Give you the key, it'll give you a value, and the value of this will be the tool, and the tool will be a non-executed function. So there's a reason why it didn't wrap with closed brackets, because as you can see, if you want to call a tool, you have to call it. If you want to call a tool, you wrap it with that kind of brackets. But if you don't want to call it, don't wrap it in any bracket. Just pass it like this. So this tool is not initialized, but when you do wrap it with those kinds of brackets, it is initialized. In the other round brackets, it becomes initialized. So we get that tool, and then in that tool, we wrap closed brackets in it, and then we pass the the tool arguments. So we get that tool, and then we initialize it, and then we pass in the arguments that the LLM has told us, and then execute it, and then we get the response of that. And then we can see exactly and then the response we get from this is what we can either decide to put it back to the LLM if that's actually something that we want to do, or execute it or save it to a database or something like that. So that is heavily dependent on you, the developer, or the use case. But let's see how this executes. So it has set the tool name. So for the tool, basically the tool, this is actual tool. This is the function, the tool function that we are trying to get. The tool name is just basically the description of this is just the tools that we are hoping to execute from. The argument is, so this is for the first tool. The argument for the first tool is, the tool itself, the name is called get current weather. So the arguments for that tool is the location and Canada, as you can see here. So the arguments, so that the response, so basically means the tool has been executed in this step. And the response is the current weather in Canada is sunny. And then you do the same for the second tool, and then you execute that. And then I'd say something here was deprecated, but don't worry about that. It's really cool. And then that's literally it. There's nothing so much about it. So the next step, this literally covers all the entire journey from doing function calling and tool calling. You just tell the LLM, this is what I want, this is the function I have. And given this response, can you tell me the best tool to use to get the right output? And I know there's quite a lot that you can build and stretch around it. So if you want, you can continue on with our use case. And on this section, also add a chat template, and also probably add a conversational buffer. And then you can try to go ahead and try to push this response, the currently sunny, back into the LLM and see what the LLM will say just after that. That's very much possible. I'll put the links in the description to the documentation of LangChain that allows us to do that. But this is just a general overview of how it is possible to pull these things off. And so if you've got this far, you've literally completed the whole series, and the series is over. The next after this will probably be just a project that documents all of this, or just shows how to pull all of this in one actual working application. And I'm working on that. Or it's probably, if it's out, I'll link it on I'll link that also in the description. But if it's not out, I'm working on it, and it'll be coming out very soon. So thank you for watching this YouTube series, and I hope it has been beneficial. If it has, please leave a like and subscribe, and leave any comments, and we will try to. Or if you have anything that you'd like to cover in this channel, AI concepts, AI education, please tell me, and we'll try to cover that. So yeah.